was out here yesterday preparing these pre-radius frets, stainless steel, for this fretboard, and I was using my nipper to cut them, and it's not too bad to do. These nippers cut these stainless steel just fine, but I was, knowing me, I thought, I'm gonna find an easier way. And I thought if I had a mini cutoff saw, maybe I could cut them off with that. So when you're cutting this wire using the nippers, you got to be careful how you cut it, because you don't want to crush that tang and get it all sideways, which I've done on a couple occasions. And I'm not using this overhang where the tang is pre-cut out, because I'm using it to where you can see the tang on the end. In the future, when I do next with binding on a side, this may come in handy, but you still got to cut the other end to a length and then remove that tang. So I'm going to remove that overhang. Grind that little point off with my grinder. I'm going to cut this to length and put it in that fret. Put a straight edge against it, and then cut it with the nipper. Now I got a point on there that I need to grind off again. It's gonna have to be cleaned up a little bit, but let's see if I got the right length. So here's my test fit. I've got it even on the ends. And I'll put that in my organizer. So the difference between a nipped end and a cut off wheel end is you only have some burrs to remove here, and here you have the whole point to remove, and the possibility of crushing that tang. If you're doing your frets to where you try to get them at the right length before you install them, it might be easier to use a cutoff wheel, because I can take and mark, put a scratch on this with my razor blade, and go to my cutoff wheel and know exactly where to cut it off. Hopefully you can see the little scratch right there. I put this in the groove, line it up with the edge. So when I cut that, it does a really good job. It just leaves a little bit of a razor thin piece of metal there that is easily removed with the file. And a little sandpaper. When I decided to try a mini cutoff, I went online and looked for one. Found some on Amazon that weren't too hateful and cost about $65. And then I remembered I had a sewing machine motor with a foot controller, but I really didn't have a way to hook the blade up on it. Then I remembered I had a couple of these cutoff wheels, air operated, and went from there. So everything I used was pretty much scrap wood. I got an old 2x12 for the base. I needed a hinge. This is a fairly tight hinge with very little play in it whatsoever. So with the hinge mounted on the base, I needed something that my cutoff wheel could ride on. With this portion mounted on there, how was I going to mount that on there and keep it all steady? I came up with these boards that'll lay in between. Now with these two boards on there, for this to cradle in between, I needed something to hold it nice and rock steady. So I took a board, drilled an 1.5-inch hole in it, and sawed it down the middle. That'll go right over top of that. Okay, I've got it firmly attached on there now. I don't have to lift it up and down all the time. So, I went through my scrap pile of springs and found this one. Ha ha ha. So I needed something that would firmly hold my fret in location while I was cutting it off. So I made this radius piece of wood, put a slot in it that's big enough for that tang to fit in without sticking, and mount it onto this board where the saw will come right down and get it. I've got it set up to where when the blade comes down, it's right on the edge of that board. Put your fret in, you can cut it right off. This cut-off saw has quite a bit of weight to it, but so it won't slide around, I'm going to add these rubber feet to the bottom. Using the cut-off is really easy when you've got a whole bunch of these pre-cut frets. But what if I had a big length of wire that I was cutting? Well, you'd have to have it on the end of a bench where it could hang over. And when you bring it in to cut the next cut, there's got to be some clearance over in here for that to go into, or raise this up a little higher. I've got this neck, the frets are completely installed, and the first 4 or 5 I did with my nippers. And I've got a good start on this neck, got several of them already fitted, but I think this is a game changer for me anyway. It's going to make it faster, especially when you got several necks in a row. This will give you hand cramps. So here's the productivity. Did I say that right? Productivity. Oh well. Productivity. Here we go.